Croft, Sky News.
I wanted to return to one of our top stories now. This is the front page of the Australian newspaper, with Labor looking to limit the amount of superannuation fund choice for up to 4.7 million workers and moving to scrap the laws that actually do that. Joining me now live from the IPA is James Paterson from the Institute of Public Affairs. James, thanks so much for your time. What is the biggest problem, in your view, in the Institute of Public Affairs view, about the laws that are in place at the moment?
Well, there's a couple of issues here, Laura, but at a very basic premise, at a first principles level, I think we all agree that you should be able to choose your own super fund. That's a pretty basic thing that every Australian should have the right to do. It's your money, it's your retirement, it should be up to you to decide where the best place is for it to be invested. But sadly, there are many Australians who are denied that choice, and they're denied that choice because their enterprise bargaining agreement specifies only one fund in which they are allowed to have their super paid. It's typically the case in very union-strong industries. So you see it in the construction industry, for example, where workers on a big construction project will be forced by a CFMEU deal with the employer to invest their funds in CBIS, the Building Industry Super Fund, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, but not everyone is across their super. Not everyone has an involvement until they, need their super. Younger people in particular. So, what safeguards would then be in place to make sure people are putting their money in suitable institutions?
Well, the same safeguards that exist for every other worker in every other industry. If you work at a milk bar, if you work at a local mechanic, you can choose your own super, and you face the same risks that anyone does making investment decisions throughout their life, and you may make good decisions or you may make bad decisions. But there are lots of other regulations of the superannuation industry that limit the number of people and the types of people that can offer super funds to ensure that it's a pretty safe investment wherever you go. So I think we have to ultimately trust workers to make decisions about their own investment future, and if we believe that most workers should have it, I think it's time we extended it to workers who work in union-controlled industries.
But there is an argument that industry super funds do better than most, a safer investment. What do you have to say to that?
Well, there are some industry super funds that perform well, and there are some retail funds that perform well. You can certainly choose retail funds that perform better than industry super funds. The other side of this, though, Laura, is that there's a really unhealthy relationship between the union movement and union super funds. Because they control 50% of the board appointments, and because they can funnel money to their preferred super fund through an enterprise bargaining agreement.
So how has that manifested itself? Can you give us an example?
Well, one really good example was exposed by the Royal Commission, where an employee of CBIS, the Construction Industry Super Fund, handed over the private contact details and information of its members who worked on construction sites but were not CFMEU members. Now, presumably the purpose of doing that was to allow the CFMEU to put pressure on these people to recruit.
But isn't that more of an administrative problem, and couldn't that be, nipped in the bud without changing these laws altogether?
It's the natural outcome you'd expect to see when you've got a union that controls half the board and a union which controls the supply of future workers to CBUS. It's no wonder that there were employees at CBUS who were sympathetic to the CFMEU and willing to cooperate, because the CFMEU has a lot of power over them. They shouldn't have any power over them all, and they certainly shouldn't have the power over the investment decisions of workers who should be able to choose the super fund that they think best suits their needs.